And welcome everybody to another glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting on the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. All those folks who were busy night last night for the world. Everybody, half the world was watching the Chargers and Chiefs. The other parts, everybody was watching Spider-Man. Everybody and their grandmother was at Spider-Man last night too, as well. So let's just dive into that game just a little bit, real quick. We don't usually get a chance on Friday to talk about the Thursday night game, but Thursday night game did affect it's AFC West. I tell you, Brandon Staley must play a mean game of Madden because his refusal. And even the next day to just say, I was right and going for all these fourth downs. The first one, it worked a couple of weeks ago and against the Bengals. That's kind of their style. But I thought the critical one to me was end of the half. I think it was like 3 seconds left. You had the ball at like the 5-yard line. You're already up. I think they were up by, what was the score at that point? I forgot what score the point was. They were up by
14-10.
14-10.
Yeah.
So they'd been up by a touchdown. You got to kick that field goal and in that situation. And even for numerous, fourth downs in his territory. We're thoughts about Brandon Staley here, because he really kind of cost his team an opportunity to win a division.
Yeah, if the Chargers win that game, they're in first place with a 2-game sweep over the Chiefs. So that was a big game. The analytics to go for it on fourth down, it looks great when it works, but at some point, in these type of games, playoff type games, you just got to make the right decision. And the first one, I'm okay with that. First drive of the game, you still have basically 3.5 quarters after that if that doesn't work. Like you said, the end of the half. The issue you have there is when you go for it on fourth down inside the 5-yard line, the upside is the other team gets the ball back and has to go 95 yards, but not at halftime.
No.
You got to kick it off back to them. So you got to take the 3 there and go up 7. I didn't like the one later in the game when they could have kicked, a 45, 48-yard field goal, whatever it was, to go up multiple scores, and they went for it. They ended up going for it, I think, 5 times on fourth down. I'm not sure they converted any of them. So it looks great when it works. Looks bad when it backfires, but at any point you can get a 2-score lead on a team. You got to do it, especially with the way the Chargers defense was playing early in the game. In the first 3 quarters, they held them to 13 points. I don't understand everyone saying, he needs to go for it because Derwin James got hurt. Like, you lose one player in your defense, so you just throw the whole game plan out the window and just try to be super aggressive. I'm not in that line of thinking. I thought that they played well enough. They never really put the pressure on the Chiefs by going up multiple scores.
Yes.
They could have used any of those points at the end of that game when they were up 8. Just 3 of the 9 they left on the field, they win that game. So it's, if they got touchdowns, we wouldn't be talking about it. But at the end of the day, they lost. So let's talk about it. It cost them the game, basically.
So I would say this too. Time goes by fast in life. And, if you have kids, you realize how time really goes by fast. If you're a Charger fan, you can blink and, Herbert could be in his 13th year. And you could have a situation like with Phillip Rivers. You can't blow opportunities to win a division and make a run to go to the Super Bowl. Because, with COVID, with injuries, if you keep your stuff in house and you have everything together, you can go to the Super Bowl. It's just that simple. The Chargers are an imperfect team. There's no perfect team in football, but you have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. That's the ultimate goal. This whole thing about, the future. Hey, listen, 2016, I thought we had a good future too, but things change dramatically quickly in the National Football League, and who knows? Who says Herbert's going to have a healthy career? You have to take it. It amazes me that teams don't have that big picture, or the small picture with the big picture, saying to themselves, hey, listen, we literally look at the AFC. We literally have an opportunity to win the conference. Let's take advantage of it. Let's not be stupid. Let's not be so smart you're stupid and like let's get points when we have opportunity to get points. And like you said, going up 2 scores changes the dramatic changes the whole dynamic of the game. For me, the one that I think you and I were texting back and forth, and we disagreed on it, but the one that I would have went for was when they went up 7. That's the one I would have went for, because then you can be up 9. But it's a moot point because if they kick the field goal at the at the end of the first half, they would have to be in that situation in the first place.
Yeah, if you believe in win probabilities and all that stuff that's out there, kicking the extra point actually increased their win probability by 0.3%. So basically, it was a wash whether they went for 2 or kicked the extra point. I look at the big picture here. Not only did they lose their opportunity to win the division because now they're 2 games behind the Chiefs and they're not going to catch them, they may not make the playoffs. I kind of looked at their schedule. They're 8-6, I believe, is the Chargers record. They have Houston next week. That's a win. That's a gimme. So they'll get to 9. But the last 2 on the schedule, they got to play the Broncos and the Raiders. Not that they can't win those games, but now they're going to have to win those games to get a chance to try to.
That's a different mindset. Yeah.
So now they have to win 3 of the last. They have to win the last 3 to get to 11 wins. The Broncos and Raiders aren't going to be easy for them. They're divisional games and never are. So if they slip up on one of those games that don't make the playoffs, they had a chance to basically take a stranglehold on the division, and it may have handicapped their season. So we'll see how they bounce back. They're going to get that 9th win this week against Houston. That's going to be an easy victory for them. But those last 2 games are not going to be easy. I think the Broncos game's at home, but then they go to the Raiders the last week. So that last week, if the Raiders can somehow figure out how to get a win this week against the JV Browns and then beat the Broncos next week, it could be for 10 wins that last game of the season. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you gotta take advantage of the opportunities. I just don't. I mean, that whole first, everybody is, we jokingly used to call my friends and I used to call the new coaches the girl with the curl, like, hey, a fancy new coach. Hey, we got a fancy new coach, Brandon Staley. But after a while, I mean, you never know. You never know, and the Bills are right there. All these other teams are right there on the bubble. You could lose a spot in the playoffs, and it just I mean, some of those moves just didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense whatsoever as far as that goes. Urban Meyer. Oh, we'll do Urban Meyer right now. Urban Meyer gets fired. I do like the people who are poking fun and joking around with putting Urban Meyer in Raiders gear on Twitter. It is pretty funny. He reminds me of a bully, right? The bully never goes after the guy who is 6'4", 320, right? Like he always kind of goes after, probably picks his battles the right way. So he goes after the kicker and kicks the kicker in the leg that he already hurt, of course. But there was a myriad of moves that he made that made no sense. Just from the strength and conditioning coach to Tim Tebow, all those things like that. Like, what are the final thoughts about Urban Meyer? And this should kind of put his coaching career into the refrigerator, right?
He's not going to get another job in the NFL, that's for sure. Will a college take a chance on him? It's going to take a couple of years for kind of this to clear everything that's happened in his career. What he left behind at Florida, kind of the scandals he had at Ohio State there at the end. Now you have these issues here with the Jaguars. He made it 13 games into a 5-year contract. So I'm sure Shad Khan is going to say he fired him for cause. They're not going to pay him for the next 5 years. They're going to try to get some of that money back. But, I look back at some of the personnel decisions they made. They traded C.J. Henderson, a first-round draft pick. They took in the top 10. 1 year into his career, they traded him. Maybe they want him back, would like to have him back. And just some of the guys they let go and moved on from that were pretty young, promising players that are no longer on that roster to help them out. And, it's interesting to see Trevor Lawrence come out and say, now that he's gone, Urban's gone, they have focus and sanity. They got a rookie quarterback basically saying, "Thank good riddance, this guy's out of here." So the locker room's going to like it. I think they're going to come out and play inspired ball the next couple of weeks for Darrell Bevell, who I don't believe is going to be there long term. But it's going to give the players in the locker room a new lease on life. But how many of those players are going to be there next year? Is Trent Baalke going to come back? So I think the saving grace here is you have Trevor Lawrence to build around, but the whole Urban Meyer experiment might have set this organization back 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, no, it has, no question about it. But at least the coaches are important, especially in National Football League. Coach, you got to have a really good coach. But at the very least, I would say that they do have Trevor Lawrence, who is a great building block. They have that whole, the whole tax situation in Florida. So if a coach wants to go to Florida, and I think most importantly, that division is that division. Like, you can make inroads in that division, no question about it. Tennessee is a really good team, but you can make inroads in that division. So if you play your cards right, as far as that goes, he is a tremendously gifted passer of the football. So we'll see what happens with Trevor Lawrence, and it kind of segues to the Raiders too, because that's an attractive job. They have a whole lot of money to spend in free agency if they want to go that route, and also they have the draft picks as well too. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, they have $70 million in cap space and a top 5 pick, which the Raiders have neither of those. The Raiders will pick somewhere in the teens with roughly $50 million, but they only have like 22 guys under contract next year. So that's a little deceiving because they just don't have a number of players under contract. So that cap space is going to get eaten up pretty quickly by the Raiders if they re-sign some of their pending free agency. They're not going to be able to add a ton of guys, and they don't have the draft capital that Jacksonville does. And for me, Byron Leftwich makes a ton of sense he played in Jacksonville. He understands the city. He understands the organization. He was a quarterback in there for them. He's in Florida now, over in Tampa, having success. He won a Super Bowl. There's leadership characteristics with him that we've talked about on this podcast. So if the Raiders had any hopes of getting Byron Leftwich, I would say Jacksonville would be the favorite in the clubhouse for him at this point. So this is why we've been talking about Mark Davis needs to get a jump start on this coaching search and start getting names together and get ready to interview guys coming up in about 2 weeks. Actually, what's the date today? They can start interviewing them in 10 days. The Raiders need to have interviews lined up that first week, because they had the opportunity to be the only team that could do it. Now they have competition with Jacksonville, and who knows? I would be surprised if Chicago joined that mix here in the next 2 weeks, and maybe there's a couple other teams. I think there's going to be about 6 to 8 head coach openings by the end of the year. So the Raiders have the cream of the crop right now to choose from, but now there's someone else is at the dance with them. So
if you were Mark Davis, what would be your conversation to say? I'm Mark Davis, and you're Byron Leftwich, and I say to you, and he says, hey, I'm getting interest from Jacksonville as well. Like, why the Raiders?
I think the selling point for the Raiders is whoever comes in as the head coach, they're going to have some say. Obviously, if Mark Davis does hire the coach before the GM, they'll have some say in who the GM is going to be. But the coach can build his own staff. He can build up, basically him and the GM can build up whatever scouting department they want, because I'm sure the Raiders are going to beef up their scouting department, because I would be shocked if they have a full assortment of scouts as some of the other organizations have. And basically, you're in Vegas, you can put your name up on the marquee. They had Gruden all over the billboards. Now it's going to be whoever the head coach is. You're selling hope. You're selling the facility. The facility in Henderson is probably one of the top 2 or 3 in all of football.
Yeah.
State taxes, you're going to be able to recruit players there. So, if I'm a player, I'd much rather go to Vegas than Jacksonville. But we'll see what happens, because Jacksonville might be playing, numerous games overseas in London here in the next couple of years, because we keep hearing about that.
Yeah. Of all the things you've said, I think the London factor is Shad Khan cannot guarantee that head coach that he's not going to London, because everybody knows he wants to go to London. And do you want to be part of that situation where you're flying them? That mean you're 4 weeks and you play 4 home games in a row. You play 4 road games in a row, and that's just I don't know if that's I don't know if that's ideal for an NFL team as far as that goes. But we'll see because he can't guarantee that team doesn't move or doesn't go to England because everybody knows he wants that team in England. Let's see here. Browns, Raiders. I don't know, man. I mean, is Ohio State or Cincinnati going to give the Browns some players this week? Like, I don't know. I don't know. This whole thing is kind of crazy as far as the COVID situation is. But like, listen, I the way I look at the COVID thing is like this. Number one, I don't want to hear about player safety part of it because the league doesn't care about player safety. And much as I love football, if you are concerned with player safety, I would tell players not to play football. Because that's the only way you can really play football safely is not to play it. So I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure why certain teams are getting this influx of COVID. I'm not sure why, but the league needs to stand by and play these games and kind of use it as a teaching point for these teams to say, listen, the ad space, even last night, they were still like showing commercials for the Raiders and Browns on Saturday. So like they are making it pretty clear. And even on my Twitter feed, I follow, obviously we follow NFL, the Twitter handle, like they continually are pumping out those two games on Saturday. So they're playing those games on Saturday. So the show must go on. And if you don't handle your situation, that's kind of on you guys. I mean, like it really is. I mean, like for 4 months out of the year, I'm not telling you not to go nowhere, but I mean, as a team, you got to kind of hold it together and kind of lock it down to a point where, you don't miss a playoff berth because of COVID.
Yeah, we knew that this was a possibility to happen at the back end of this season. It's finally here, and it seems like it is concentrated. And for some reason, the LA Rams got hit hard, the Washington football team, and the Cleveland Browns. So I don't know why those three cities. I don't know what happened. It's interesting that some teams can have 20, 25, and other teams have 0 to 1 guys testing positive right now. I don't know what's going on in those facilities, how it's getting transmitted through the air at those facilities, because if one guy gets it and brings it in, if they're really testing, did they miss it? There's a million dynamics. Was it Thanksgiving? Did these guys go home? Did any of these teams have a bye? Who knows? But they made teams play last year. I mean, the Denver Broncos went out there and had to use a practice squad wide receiver as quarterback. They didn't move the game last year when they could have, and they moved games last year. The Raiders not only were missing their offensive line, they moved the game up. So, at this point, they're going to have to tee it up and play it. The only thing I think could get in the way here is if they can't field, if Cleveland can't produce 46 or 48 healthy bodies, if they get to the point where it's 38, 40 guys, and it's a competitive disadvantage for the Raiders to dress up 48. I think I think you're going to see some issues there. But at this point, it's Friday. The Raiders are getting out of plane in a couple of hours to go to Cleveland. Yeah. If we don't hear anything in the next hour or two, this game's happening.
Yeah.
And if the Raiders go to Cleveland and lose this game against the JV Browns, we'll call them. I mean, they literally have I think Mac Wilson was another one today and another linebacker. They don't have any linebackers or any safeties. They're down to a practice squad quarterback. They just signed Kyle Laletta today off a practice squad.
Check it down, Derek. Check it down.
They're missing half their offensive line. If the Raiders go in there and lay an egg, man, I don't know what to tell you. That coaching staff might as well just stay in Cleveland because they have a golden opportunity right now to steal a game back here and try to make a run this last month. Do I think they're going to be able to win out? I don't personally, but it's 1-0 every week, and they have a chance this week, a golden chance to get that victory.
Yeah, I mean, to me, listen, if you're offensively, I don't care what the weather is, just don't make any mistakes. And eventually, with a healthy Max Crosby, a healthy Jefferson, a healthy Malcolm Kuntz, if you will, all those guys. I mean, you can't be sitting back and playing cover 3 this week. I mean, you have to go get the quarterback. No question about it. Yannick and Max Crosby, all those guys. I mean, this could be a golden opportunity for the defense to score a touchdown this week to help out the cause as well. I don't really see. I mean, I'm playing it. I'm going to play it as safe as possible on offense early on, just run the ball, and then just see where it takes you. And after that, kind of play action. It's kind of weird that somebody put out a stat on Twitter, and I got to write some of these people down because I want when somebody posts a stat, I want to give them credit for it. But that the Raiders are very successful in play action, but they're one of the teams in the league who use it the least. I don't know how that works or what common sense that makes at all, but like it's kind of stupid, but I just the way it is. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why they do that, but yeah, I mean the Brown. I mean you got to find a way to attack the Browns this week. I mean, really, they are at a really. I mean, like if you have to do max protection to keep Garrett off the quarterback, go do what you got to do. Like do what you have to do this week because I mean this really is a game. I don't care if you win it 9-0. Like I just you got to find a way to win this game this week. I mean I don't elements whatever. There's no excuses. My God.
Yeah, the play action stat is they run it the least in the league, but they have the highest efficiency. Now, I don't know how they measure efficiency. Is it yards? Is it completion percentage? Is it EPA? I don't know what statistic they're using, but typically the Raiders run play action. When they do it, it's 1st and 10. You know, they're running Yankee concept. You know, 2-3-man routes, trying to take shots, and you see it. The linebackers don't respect the Raiders' run blocking. They're attacking downhill anytime you show run. So it doesn't surprise me that they're kind of successful when they do it. And it's usually earlier in games. They're not getting away with it in the second half. So would I like to see him use more play action? Yeah, but, you know, the key to this game is Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's healthy. I know he's running behind a JV offensive line. I think there's only 2 of the 5 starters are going to be playing. But if the Raiders can't figure out how to contain Nick Chubb, it's going to be a long day because they're going to turn around. Weather's going to be a factor.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you Nick Chubb's getting 25 to 30 carries this game because they're not letting Nick Mullins put the ball in the air 30
And
times.
Hunt is out as well too, right?
He is out, but Dearness Johnson's a pretty good back too. He's still
Yes,
there.
yeah, he's still there too. So yeah, I mean they're going to be running the football a whole lot. I mean, this is a game for Solomon Thomas. All those run blocking, all those run, Jonathan Hankins, those kind of just not letting him get loose. And
KJ Wright, this is his game.
This is a KJ Wright game, isn't it? This is a KJ Wright game. No question about it. So yeah, so I mean the Raiders definitely should be able to find a way to to win this game. I think they want to. I think that with the weather, with the COVID thing, the COVID kind of brings, even though COVID is crazy, but like I think that this brings intrigue to the game. I think that's one of the reasons why the NFL doesn't want to move it. Like you have a indoor West Coast team going into elements to play a game. That's always a good watch, no matter what. Like right, it's always a good watch to see how they handle that. The quarterback has not always handled that well. I don't know what stat a Carr fan could come up with in cold weather. So that made me feel comfortable with him in cold weather, but he has not been cold weather. You may remember we were talking about Jalen Richard. You don't want to give him the ball in this situation. He is not good in that as well. So, and I think he's back on the COVID list anyway. So we'll take it from there. I could see a scenario where the Raiders lose always because I've been for 20 years I could always imagine a scenario where the Raiders lose, but they don't win this game. That's gonna be a really bad situation for them.
Yeah, I just want to know what the weather's going to look like because it doesn't look pretty. It looks like it's going to be windy, upper 30s, rain. This could come down to, maybe Rich Bisaccia falls in love with field goals. Maybe they miss a field goal, bad snap, bad punt, muff a punt. There's a million things that could go wrong. It's about protecting the football. And this week, if the defense is keeping him in it, I wouldn't mind just turning around and handing the ball off and just trying to get Jacobs and Peyton Barber going. Even if you have to punt a couple times, that's great. You just can't turn the ball over in these kind of elements.
No question about it. This is a game where, like, if you're in the fantasy playoffs, don't just sit everybody in this game. This is just win, baby, no question about it. You got to win. You got to find a way to win this game by hell or high water if you're the Raiders, because you got a little opening here with they've had several openings this year and they have not taken advantage of at least any one of them. So we'll have to see what happens as far as that goes. Anything you take from the tough guy Carr talking about I'm thinking of a lot of things when he's talking about in the press conference yesterday?
Now, I kind of think he's just reflecting on the season, the high expectations that the teams had, everything that's happened, kind of how they've circled the drain again here in the middle of the season. What's his future going to look like? I don't think he's thinking too far in advance, but it's got to be in the back of his head, like what's going to happen with his franchise in the offseason. I thought some interesting comments he made were kind of when he was talking about most of the players work hard. I thought him using the word most was kind of a direct shot at some guys. If that's still going on in that locker room after all these character picks that Mayock has supposedly made, Derek's been there 8 years, some of the veterans they've added, Casey Hayward, Denzel Perryman. If there's guys in that locker room that just aren't practicing hard, like Divine Diablo had to come out basically and call them out for their practice habits, which I thought was amazing that a rookie would step forward and say something. But why does the rookie have to do it on this team? Where is KJ Wright making these kind of comments? Where is Max Crosby? Where is Jonathan Abram? I don't know if he's a leader on this team, but where are those guys? Why are they not making those comments? Why is Divine Diablo? So there's a bunch of stuff clearly going on behind the scenes. They've been playing like trash on the field, and this kind of explains why. And we'll see. They have 4 games. Their season is they can't lose another game. If they don't get to 10 wins, they're not making the playoffs. So backs against the wall now, and let's see how they respond.
It would have been nice if they beat Tyler Haneke, Daniel Jones, or Justin Fields. Any one of those guys, just one. At this
give
point,
them 2 of those, and they're in the playoffs.
Give them one. They probably might make it either way. So they talked about when Dabo Sweeney was at one of the games. Hunter Renfrow, they asked Hunter Renfrow about it. He said that he made a joke that Dabo can't come to any more games anymore because they lost both games. That he was there, but in Raiders gear, and he made a remark that he FaceTimes Derek all the time.
That was interesting. Yeah, I heard that too.
Okay, so my heart started beating really, really fast. Got an alert on my Apple Watch when I heard that. But did you think that means what could that? How building a football team is hard as it is, and we all know that the whole coordinator situation, everybody's left Dabo and Clemson. Raiders have a lot of Clemson products on the squad. What would he's not a play, he's just a kind of a CEO, kind of almost like a John Harbaugh type, where he's just not going to be calling plays or anything like that. What would that even look like for Dabo Sweeney becoming? Should we be worried about Dabo Sweeney being a real candidate for the Raiders job?
I hope he's not. You have to wonder, how long has he been talking to Derek? Is this post Gruden? Is this before Gruden left? Is it over several years? Who knows? But yeah, there is definitely intrigue there from the Raiders' perspective. If they went out and hired Dabo Sweeney, I don't know what I would do, because like you said, he's a good recruiter. He seems like he's a decent motivator. I don't know if that whole I don't want to bring religion to it, but he's definitely, preaches the Christianity around it, and it works in college where he's at. I don't know if that's going to work with grown men. He doesn't have a specialty. He's not an offensive guru. He's not a defensive mastermind. That was his coordinators at those schools. Can you bring him in to be the leadership type? If you really believe that he was a leader over an X's O's guys and he could turn this thing around. But my concern is, the minute either one of the units, offense or defense, have success, you're going to be replacing those positions. So I am not for Dabo Sweeney joining as the head coach of the Raiders, but who knows? He did lose sounds like the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, and the athletic director at Clemson are all gone. Mm-hmm. If he was ever going to leave Clemson, it'd be now. Let's just hope he wants to go coach Trevor Lawrence down in Jacksonville over coming to Vegas.
Could you imagine in Jacksonville if they went back-to-back college coach in Jacksonville? That would be hilarious. That would be crazy. So we're gonna venture off and kind of talk about the Raiders. Obviously, are not keeping this head coach, and he didn't want the job. He coaches like he doesn't want the job. So I'm going to treat him as he doesn't want the job, because that's obviously his situation there. So we're going to start over the offseason. We're going to examine some candidates, and one of the candidates was on exhibit last night in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium, and that's Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know. Just some background really quick for him. He was the running back coach at the University of Colorado. They offered him the head coaching job in 2020. He declined. He was also the running back coach at UCLA, running back coach at with the Vikings, Coach Adrian Peterson, and all stuff like that. Returned to Colorado as the OC, then got a job with the Chiefs after Nagy left and went to go to Chicago. There is that infamous bar fight that everybody keeps talking about as well in his background. That shouldn't. I don't think that should really. I don't think anybody. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there was any casualties in that fight, but like that's the one thing people keep talking about as far as like the negative towards him. A lot to unpack here with him. What are your thoughts about? I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts about Eric Bieniemy here as a head coach, possibly for Las Vegas Raiders?
Yeah, personally, I don't see it as a fit in Las Vegas. I think there's some domestic violence stuff in his background from his time at Colorado.
Okay.
I don't know the specific details, but if Mark Davis is really against domestic violence as he says he is, and for the most part, he's avoided those players and he's made very good decisions for the organization in that regard. If there's any truth to those rumors, or if that really happened, then I don't think he's a candidate for this organization. That aside, how much of the Chiefs offense is really Eric Bieniemy? How much of it is it Andy Reid? How much is it Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce versus the input Eric Bieniemy has? I just don't think that right now he's a guy that could come in and run this whole operation from the ground up, which is basically what he's going to have to do if he's the head coach. So if I were the Raiders, I'd feel more comfortable with some other candidates. And he doesn't have any prior head coaching experience, although some of these other candidates don't. But I would probably look in another direction.
Yeah, I just don't. I feel like his best opportunity, in my mind, was to just go to Colorado, be the head coach. Nobody expects you to win at Colorado, so just go there and score a lot of points. And then make it a tough spot for people to go to in the Pac-12. I think that would have got him a head coaching job a little bit faster, and then not taking that job. I don't really, I thought to me that was a big situation where there are not a lot of jobs out there. I think he should have just taken it. As far
he played at Colorado.
He played at Colorado too, yeah. So yeah, that team was very memorable too as well. So that was a cool team in Colorado. So it makes sense. You talked about Andy Reid. Even Andy Reid, even it looks like this year it's almost impossible to give him a head coaching job off of the season, because even last night's game, that was night at the Improv with my Patrick Mahomes. Like the play they called did not work. You can tell by the drop. He got to the back of his drop. It wasn't there. He's just running around and he's making plays like you're playing backyard football. Like that's what he and Kelce and Tyreek Hill, who was both those guys are amazing players, Hall of Fame type players. Like that's basically what happened last night. So, if you can, what the plays that they call, initially aren't working. So I don't know what to kind of say about that part of it. That's something they got to fix. I think also too, we talked about it last night. Player development is huge, and Pringle, all these other guys, they must be, Mikael Hardman, they must be horrible. They have to be horrible, because how you could not develop as a wide receiver on this offense where they're dying to have another guy come in and start playing well. Like how you can't develop when you have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce getting all the bulk of the coverage, all the attention, and you can't beat one-on-one. Those guys are not, they're borderline not, NFL players as far as that goes. That's a really bad part of their offense. Those guys can't, because think about if they just had somebody to take the pressure off. Like if they had a Renfro, if they had somebody just to shift the football, some targets somewhere else. that would be an unstoppable offense. But people are stopping that offense because both of those guys can't really get it done.
Yeah, and going back to Bieniemy, it's kind of he doesn't call the plays. Now I know we can have the argument. Well, Doug Peterson didn't, Matt Nagy didn't. They got head coaching jobs, but the Raiders need to hit a home run on this. There's way too much risk, in my opinion, to hire a guy who's not calling plays. You don't know. Matt Nagy, it didn't work. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl, so 50%. The Raiders can't go 50% right here. This has to be an 100% higher. So that's another reason why I'd go away from that. The whole, developing the third option, you're right. Josh Gordon hasn't really shown much. Sammy Watkins didn't do much there. Robinson, the receiver, hasn't done much. Pringle didn't do much. Hardman hasn't developed. It's almost like, in a basketball analogy, it reminds me of the Lakers in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Who's the third weapon? Like, everyone wanted to blame Glenn Rice. It's Glenn Rice's fault because he's only averaging 15 points a game. But Glenn Rice is never getting the ball. It's Eddie Jones's fault. Who's the third guy that they can bring in there? And it's got to be, in my opinion, it needs to be, like you said, probably one of those shifty inside safety valve slot receivers that can help them out. If they added that piece to this offense, if they had a Hunter Renfrow, if they had a Cole Beasley, one of those kind of guys, a Julian Edelman, who knows what would happen with this offense. But they haven't, fortunately for the rest of the AFC, they haven't found that guy yet.
Yeah. And
let's just hope they don't.
Yeah, they don't. Because that last quarter was, the last quarter, the people would pound their chest and say they're back. I look at it more of a context like when he hits when his back foot hits the ground, that play's dead. Like the initial play that they are calling is dead. So like that should be troublesome to that team. And like, when you talk to Andy Reid, he just keeps saying, or they keep saying, hey, we're good. We're just not executing. I mean, is that really the case? Like, I mean, it just seems like it's a little bit more than just you're not executing. Like, it just seems like something else is going on, and the league is definitely kind of caught up with that. And then when I thought about that, I'm talking about like a playoff game against Belichick, in New England, where like, yeah, their defense is playing great, but like, are their offensive weapons going to score enough to win these games? Because it's going to be it's that one quarter was great, but that's not really that's kind of out of the context of how they want to play, because what they're calling isn't working. So we'll see. I don't think Eric Bieniemy. I thought Eric Bieniemy. I think he deserves an opportunity at some point. Maybe. I think the thing about it is he might have to take that humble pie. And I mean, you know what? I think to me, you know what? You might want to go. Why not just take a peek at what's going on with the HBCUs? I mean, you see it with Deion Sanders, with Hugh Jackson. Like, if you can get a 2 or 3 years of positive football, of scoring, where you're the play caller, where you're the guy in charge, that will go a long way for him becoming a head coach, in my mind.
It sucks to be in a situation. His best opportunity was probably 2 years ago to get a head coaching job.
Yeah.
Either Andy Reid needs to give him full control of the play calling, or maybe he should go somewhere else and be a play caller and prove that he can do it away from Andy Reid. Because if he did that, he would get a head coaching job fairly quickly.
Yeah, no question about it. So next week we'll talk about some other candidates. We'll dive into a couple of candidates. I think 2 candidates. I'll write this down right now so we can get ready for him next week. Is Jim Caldwell, because his name is popping up, and I like Jim Caldwell. So I want to hear. I'm anxious to see what you feel about Jim Caldwell. He's up there in age, but before that, and then we'll talk about Brian Leftwich as well, as far as that goes. Before we go, what are your thoughts about everybody losing their mind because this kid decommitted or did not go to Florida State and went to go play with Deion Sanders? Everybody's giving him all this crap about it. I mean, like, what is it? What's the big? What I mean, like, are people acting like with the HBCUs? Like, there's a lot of great all-time greats who went to HBCUs. So I'm not sure why people are going crazy about it. But Florida State lost a player to Deion Sanders, and I can tell you, if Deion Sanders walked into your living room, I mean, the guy is gonna turn some kids to come play for him.
Yeah, I mean, you got to follow the money in college football, and the kid, from all reports, got $1 to $1.5 million. from Barstool Sports and Netflix for a documentary for his time at Jackson State. So just follow the money. They got outbid, and good for the kid. He's getting paid. He's a corner, so there is some intrigue to go learn from Deion Sanders. Is he going to make it 3 years there? I don't know. Is it going to help his draft stock? Probably not, in my opinion, because he's not going to be challenged every week on the outside. He's just going to have incredible traits, test well at the combine, and then he could probably, if he's that elite of a prospect, could probably still go early enough in the draft. But the kid got paid. We saw it last year with the quarterback in Texas that dropped out of high school, enrolled early at Ohio State, got, from all reports, over a couple $1 million, and now he's back at Texas. Good for these kids. Go out and get your money when you can, because that could be life-changing money. If there's an injury that ends this kid's career, well, at least he made some money while he had an opportunity to do it. And if he can go down there and, they can win 10, 11 games, and he can still go in the first round, then more power to him. I have no problem with it. Now it's out in the open, and you start to see Gene Chizik crying. Where was Gene Chizik when he was paying off Cam Newton's dad? Because I don't think he said a word when he was buying JC players. Lane Kiffin came out and said, he went to the highest bidder. Then you had Jimbo Fisher came out and complained about Jimbo Fisher. All these guys have been buying players their whole career. Now that they're not winning, they don't want to complain about it. So it's out in the open. This has been going on for years. But now that the kids can cash in and get their money, now all these coaches have a problem with it. Get out of here with that.
And also these coaches, they have never left the program for another program for more money, right? They've never done that. Like they never told a bunch of 100 kids that they're hey, come to my school, and then leave 2 seconds later to go somewhere else. Lane Kiffin, like, he went to the highest bid. I mean, oh my god, the coaches are rich, boy. I tell you, they don't. I mean, like, whatever happens with this kid, and hopefully good for him. But a lot of guys don't make it to the highest level. So if he does have some aspect of try to get some money, go get your money. Like, go get. I'm all for people making money is legal money as much as they can. Go ahead. Like, that's just ridiculous. That's funny.
No, I definitely agree.
Highest bidder. These kids, these coaches are something else, boy. I tell you, college coaches especially. All right, Ryan, you have a great weekend. The Raiders play tomorrow. It's weird.
Cleveland.
It's weird.
You want to give predictions for that game? Is it even possible? We don't even know who's playing.
We know the Raiders are playing. Listen, the Raiders. Is it bad that I'm gonna still take the Browns? I'm gonna still take the Browns. I just don't trust this coaching staff. I think this coaching staff is just not there. People are not trying hard. I think if they don't have immediate success in that first quarter, you can forget about it. It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be windy. It's gonna be nasty. The quarterback is not a tough guy. Doesn't play. Oh, he's a tough guy, but doesn't play well in the elements. I'm gonna go the 12-10, something ugly and nasty. The Browns win and find a way, and just totally throw this organization into disarray.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I think the Raiders will find a way to win this game. I'd take the under. Last time I checked, it was down to like 36. Like, it's plummeting fast. Ugly game. I'm going to go 16-9. The Raiders get a W.
All right, 16-9. We'll see what happens there as far as that goes. Yeah, I think this is a game too. Like, if you want to throw a little wishbone action, a little direct snap to the running backs, you want to do all that stuff. Like, you want to do those things. I would definitely recommend doing those things because it seems like that would be the best way to maybe move the football. And if you are going to pass it, make sure you have that wind, and make sure Myles Garrett has 2 people to go through, even 3 if you have to. Because
I'll throw a carrot out there. 16-9, and the Raiders kick 3 field goals. They score a touchdown, and Marcus Mariota scores the touchdown.
We'll see. Hopefully. Well, I did this morning in Madden, so hopefully it happens in real life. All right, Ryan.
All right.
See you next time.
Take care.